Hi class, my name is Natalie and this assignment is for Liberal Studies 498. This assignment will be focusing on lesson plans that are for 3rd graders, and of course the lesson plan that we are typically focusing on is a science lesson plan, and which we'll be discussing weather-related hazard and engineering. That's basically the topic. Just to let you guys know, there will be a link in the description that will lead to my draft. It's not official, it's not perfect, of course, it's just a draft. But if you guys want to visually see it, it is there in the description. That's a link to Google Docs. So just to get on with it, for the standards I had used for the science one, which is 3-ESS3-1, it is make a claim about the quality of a design solution that reduces the impacts of weather-related hazard. And for the ELA one, it would be W.3.1. It is write an opinion pieces on topics or texts supporting a point of view with reasons. There's other parts of it, A, B, C, and D, but basically the main point is for them to have an opinion on the topic, and of course they have to support their point of view with reasons. So, with my objectives, the main one I'm basically focusing on is students will distinguish between weather and climate, identify various weather-related hazards, observe patterns in weather data, understand impacts on communities and ecosystems, and explore the design solutions. And there is also below it, of course, it is just mostly for the ELA standard, but it is also incorporating the writing skills and how they organize information logically, use appropriate language and vocabulary related to weather, and write to inform about hazards and solutions. And of course, they would have to maybe incorporate evidence or just edit with clarity. So to begin my lesson plan, I want to do an introduction of basically introducing like how our weather here is where we live at. And of course, they should have some knowledge of how it is. Oh yeah, it's sunny here all the time, it's hot here. Of course, they'll have a little bit of knowledge, but not so much. Who knows, maybe some are really into weather. But of course, afterwards, I would slowly start to turn it to the weather-related hazards, which will start focusing on the hurricanes or the tornadoes or hail, wind, all of that. And of course, by doing that, I would show the videos I have personally that were recorded here, that we had that hurricane one time, which would show how this is a weather-related hazard. So of course they would kind of get an idea like, oh, this is what we're focusing on, and this is what is typically the hazard, the weather-related hazard that we need to be discussing. This is the thing where we're learning about the whole lesson plan. So now that they have an idea, we're slowly going to move on to images that would have solutions for these weather-related hazards. And of course, they would be showing images of how this would help. For example, there's lightning. We would use a lightning rod to help reduce the lightning from striking somewhere else and hitting someone else, or even anywhere else in the world, but depending where the location is. But of course, with that lightning rod, it helps to keep it in this one location without causing as much damage, and of course, like causing a wildfire. So that's why I wanted to show these images, and for them to get an idea like, oh, this assists with making the impacts of the weather-related hazards lessen. Does that make sense? Okay, so afterwards I would just probably discuss more vocabulary, which is on the list. I don't believe I'm going to be saying all of them, but it's basically connected to the weather-related hazards and anything that are solutions to engineering. To continue, my first activity would be hazard weather cards, which is basically like kind of like task cards, but at the same time they are not. But with this one, I'm going to put children in 2 groups, or students, of course, well, maybe like 5 groups or so, but I want them to define the weather-related hazard and then kind of do their own research together in their groups to see what this hazard does and how it affects, the communities and the ecosystems, and then what you can do to lessen the impact. And of course, within these groups, they're going to write on a piece of paper, and after it's done being written on a piece of paper, it'll probably be posted on a poster so that every other group, because they're working on their own one, like one would be working on floods, the other one would be working on tornadoes, the other one would be working on hurricanes, but they would all be focusing on their own topic, but it would be posted on the poster so that they could all see what they did together, but also get an idea of what we're also learning, and they can use it as a guide for later on references. So that would be my first activity, which is just the cards. They just work in groups and they just discover their own weather-related hazard. To continue, the activity 2 I had was an online game, which would be, it's called Don't Flood the Fidgets game, which would probably take 15 minutes, but if you're barely introducing this, I would do this together. Only reason why is because you need to teach the students how to use this online website, and you don't want them to go somewhere else, so just do it together the first time, and then maybe next class you can do it again, but let them do it by themselves. But as together as a class, maybe it can be like just all of our getting ideas what we can do to stop the flood. But the whole point of this online game is just to save the little fidgets, or they're like little people that live in a city, and you're supposed to help save them from a flood. And of course, it kind of teaches you with money wise, and then what items you can use to decrease the flood or the water from overflowing. And of course, afterwards, it gives you the terms of what those items are, those objects, and then it also goes deeper into defining those terms too, those objects. So it's kind of assisting you also in defining, and then also teaching you, oh, if you were to add more, maybe riverbanks, I believe that's what it's called, or drains, it would help from making the flood not so bad in the city, of course. So that would be my second activity, which is to do the online game. But yeah, it would just be like 15 minutes. But of course, with science lesson plans, you're limited on time, so it might even take longer, which would probably have to go to the next lesson. To continue, basically afterwards, it's just my worksheets of what I have, and then I do have task cards, but I'm not focusing it on this lesson plan. Only reason why, because we're limited on time with, of course, a science lesson plan. Sorry. But I would like to use it within the next lesson, of course, just to maybe like a little refresher. They can get back into groups maybe in the beginning of the lesson or class, because science is usually taught at the end of class, science and history. So of course, maybe you kind of be like a new introduction again, like, hey, let's refresh our brains, what did we learn last class? And of course, they would answer their questions within groups. And as they answer their questions within groups, they can write on a piece of paper, of course, and then I would probably put it on a poster again, to which it would be another guide for those students. And I do have vocabulary definitions, which is on the Google Docs, but I'm not really going to be talking about it because it's all there for you to see. But it's just basically weather, climate, adaptation, temperature, pattern, impact, barrier, hurricane, tornado, shelter, and floodplain, and there's many more. So afterwards, I think I just included the worksheets, which is basically just weather hazards and cause and effect, to which of course they're going to be writing their opinion of what they believe this hazard does and the effects it has, and then what other effects it has. So they're giving their own opinion, but also giving the reasoning on it. And I believe there's three worksheets on this one. The second one just focuses on just connecting them together, which is the weathered hazards and the preparations you would have to do for those weathered hazards. So it's basically assisting them into thinking of ideas of what they can do to lessen the impact of that hazard. And of course, finally, the last page will just be their own opinion of what they can do. Like, we don't have severe weather here where we live, but of course, if this lesson plan would be used in other places where they have severe weather, of course, this would probably benefit them. So that's basically the overall review of my lesson plan. But if there is any questions, or if I can get a better description or better clarification of my lesson plan, please do tell me. And that is it. So, bye.